Welcome back everyone. So today I'm going to be covering what exactly a SPAC stock represents. Once we cover the basics, I'm going to be looking at an example, and in this case it's going to be ticker symbol CCIV. Now before we jump into the video, let's hit the random number generator. So the number of like goals that I'm setting this week is set to 41. So tap that thumbs up and let's talk about SPACs. So when a company decides to become publicly traded, there's an alternative from going down the typical IPO route, and the alternative is SPAC. That stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Companies. What they are effectively is a blank check company, and they are listed on the stock exchange, but they're not actually operating. You could imagine that they're just this empty box, and inside there's a pool of money that's gathered together, and in turn there's shares which we can buy on the stock market. And so when a SPAC is first listed, they're generally in the $10 mark per share, but the goal with any SPAC is to purchase a private company in the future. Now it should be stated that SPACs are pre-revenue. For instance, we don't even know which company they're going to be holding in the future, and potentially they might not even do so, in which case they'll just be delisted from the stock exchange. But because we don't have any numbers to work with, there's often associated a high level of risk and volatility, given that there's a high amount of speculation on which private company the SPAC will be buying in the future. And then if the private company is brought out, then only at that point do we know how good or how bad the company is. Now for a company to become publicly traded, the SPAC option is much easier compared to a traditional IPO. It also allows private company founders and other major shareholders to sell a higher percentage of their ownership during the reverse merger compared with a traditional IPO. Now private company founders can also avoid what's known as the lockup period, so they have a longer duration for selling any shares that they own. That is not the case with a standard IPO. Now that does mean more risk as well, because the private company founders are selling out of their position, which suggests that they just want to reach their profits and they don't really believe that the given company can grow more in the future. Now when a SPAC or any other publicly traded company purchases a private one, as I mentioned earlier, this is known as a reverse merger. And if we look back at 2020, there were 247 newly formed SPACs and raised a total of $83 billion through IPOs. And in the last 2 years alone, that's created more SPACs compared to the prior 18 years combined. So these acquisition companies are definitely on the trend. There's a whole host of companies out there that are going down this route, and chances are there's going to be a higher number that are going to fail in the future. Now the company that's caught my eye, and its ticker symbol CCIV, also known as Churchill Capital. This is an example of a SPAC, and what's really interesting to note is that we have Johnny Ive. He is listed as one of the operating partners, and all that does is give us some level of credibility for this shell company. And it's also been announced in the past that CCIV is going to be merging with Lucid Motors, and that's what's really caught my attention here. And so in the future, this ticker symbol, should everything work out, and it's looking increasingly likely so, this ticker symbol will change and the company will represent Lucid Motors. Now as for Lucid Motors, they are a rival EV startup, and they currently have members from the likes of Tesla. In fact, that's the CEO who was the previous chief engineer, but we also have members from Audi team, Apple, Samsung, Ford, Intel, and GM. Now Lucid Motors actually isn't a new company. They started back in 2007 as the brand Ativia, and they focus on being an EV supplier. Now what's interesting is that they focused primarily on the battery side, so they were the standard battery supplier for the electric racing series. And again, this just gives us more validation into the company, given it's already been race proven for the EV race series. So there was a switch in the brand to Lucid Motors back in 2016, and it's looking as though from the second half of 2021, the Lucid Air sedan will be in full production with a starting price of around $170,000. Now as with most startup companies, they focus in the luxury sector, given that there's much lower car volume, and so you can start building towards that level of scale as you master the high end of the spectrum. Now for any company that focuses on EV, the battery technology is key in terms of being highly efficient and having the largest market. And so their battery supplier is supplied by LG Chem in South Korea, but the actual battery packs are made in-house, and so it allows them to have this Lego brick modular system, and the main reason is that it's really easy to make this mass producible. Now in terms of the charging network, compared to that of Tesla, which has their own system that they're building out, Lucid Motors will be leveraging the Electrify America charging network, and that is built by Volkswagen America. Unlike other rivals out there, it's really impressive that Lucid Motors is very close to volume volume production, as their first phase of the factory in Arizona is almost complete. And so the goal for the first phase is 24,000 units. And in total there's 4 phases, with the final goal of manufacturing 400,000 units. And with all that excitement, it probably explains why people are very bullish on this company. So if you remember earlier, when we list a SPAC stock, it generally trades around the $10 mark. This company in the past has reached all the way up to almost $60, and then there was a large sell-off a few weeks back with a current trading price around $26 at the time of recording. So back in February, we experienced this drop-off. And at the time, it was announced that CCIV will be merging with Lucid Motors. Unfortunately, this is a classic case of buy the rumor and then sell the news. So many people sold out of their position once the rumor became true in that the merger was taking place. But on this occasion, we have a very solid company that CCIV will transition into. And although Lucid Motors wouldn't suggest that Tesla is their main rival, we do have to look at the history of Tesla and the similarities with that of Lucid Motors. Where Tesla was 10 years ago when they focused on the more luxury side of the business, you can see Lucid Motors as the 10-year younger version of Tesla. And from all the publicly available information, they have all the correct ingredients required to enter and become a competitor within the EV market. In terms of some of the stats here, we have an estimated range of 517 miles, which is currently 17% more efficient than the Tesla Model S. There's a quarter mile time of 9.9 seconds, and then the charge time is better than anyone else at the moment of 20 miles per minute. So the CCIV Lucid merger is really exciting. We have CCIV that will no longer be a blank check company. There's less risk associated given that the merger has been announced. So anyone that wants to buy into CCIV, they will have ownership of Lucid Motors, and in the future the fundamentals of the company will be the driving factor of the stock price rather than just pure speculation. And from my end, I always put my money where my mouth is. I currently have just under 22 shares. I plan on doubling what I have currently, and the potential for this company to 10x is something that really is possible should Lucid Motors not hint to any production-based issues once they are up and running. Now, as always, if you enjoy this content, definitely hit that subscribe button. I post a video once every week, and if you enjoy these videos, then it'd be great if you can help out the channel. If any of your friends are interested in the stock market, then feel free to send out this link just to help grow this channel. Before we go, the question I have this week is whether or not you plan on investing in the ticker symbol CCIV, which will soon hold that of Lucid Motors. So give a comment down below on whether you're bullish or bearish for this company. Hit that thumbs up on the video if you haven't already done so at the beginning, and with that said, I'll catch you in the next one.